Hey there, friend. Chances are, if you're listening to the Inventory Genius podcast, it's because, well, you really want to become an inventory genius. If that's you, then let's stop just listening. Let's stop just collecting information. Let's start doing. I want to invite you to grab your copy of the Inventory Genius book. I wrote this book with you in mind. It delivers bite-sized actionable steps that will help you use your inventory to create more profit and keep more cash in your business. This is a really easy to read book. In fact, I designed it specifically for the busy inventory-based business owner. It only takes about 2 hours to make your way through, and you're going to leave with practical bite-sized steps so you can start implementing the principles of the Inventory Genius method immediately. Head on over to Ciara, Stockeland.com, where you can grab your ebook, your Audible version, or the printed copy. Enjoy! Hey friend, welcome to the Inventory Genius podcast, where we work together here to make you an inventory genius. We talk about profit, we talk about cash flow, and we definitely talk about your paycheck. Because at the end of the day, it's all related to your inventory. Let's go. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Inventory Genius podcast. I'm your host, Ciara, and every time I jump on this podcast and I look at the camera, I remember that I need to straighten up my bookshelves. So I don't know if any of you ever watch this on YouTube. Just a little plug there. If you'd ever like to see the videos, they're all on YouTube. I'm thinking nobody watches it on YouTube, but hey, if you do, you'll see that, for the last, month, my bookshelf's been out of order, and every time, and then I get done with the episode and I forget, but here we are again. Oh, well.
It's not that bad, actually.
Oh, I know. I just I have these extra books because I give books to my clients all the time.
Yeah.
And I buy extras, and I'm running out of bookshelf space because my own book collection is broadening. And then I have books for clients, and nobody can see this, but on the other side of my computer, I have a whole nother bookshelf I just bought, and it's almost full. Like your house, because you're a reader too.
Yeah. All of them are over here.
Oh my goodness. So if you're wondering who's talking to me, it's Emily. She is here on the podcast. We're doing a series of interviews. We have some great collaborations here over in Inventory Genius World, and I've been looking for a long time just for really good vendor partners, people that I trust to send clients to. Emily's been the one steady. She's done my socials for years now, and I always send people her way. But we're formalizing our relationship a little bit more this year because her business is just taking off and growing. And so I wanted to have her back on the podcast. So that's who's talking. And that's why we're so casual here, because we know each other. We're friends.
Yeah.
So
yes. No strangers.
No strangers. Okay. So Emily, tell us a little bit about you, starting with the fact that you are a new mom.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yes.
I'm a new mom, and I just told Ciara that I look like this because I haven't gotten ready for over 3 months. So it was, getting ready was its own self-care today.
Yeah.
But it is, I'm a social media manager, virtual assistant, helping basically everyone make social media less stressful, because if that's not your cup of tea, it's going to be stressful. And now that I am a new mom, it's kind of one of those things I'm like, oh, I get it even more. Yeah. Like having somebody take over, something, whether that be accounting, bookkeeping, and coaching too, just to help with the mental load of it. Like when you are a mom, it helps a lot. Like there's just an extra added layer. So I feel like now being a mom, it's kind of made me realize how valuable service-based businesses are too, in that sense.
On your team.
Yeah. Takeovers and stuff.
So you love social media, which, a lot of us that hire you, I wouldn't say we hate it. That's a pretty strong word, but sometimes we don't find joy in it like you do, or we get really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So before we talk about what's coming down the pipe and what we need to pay attention to in 2024, tell us why working with someone like you can help put the joy back in, like just doing the things we love in our business.
Yeah. Well, it's because then your time isn't being sucked by something you don't enjoy. And if you're also doing a bunch of stuff that you don't enjoy, I find myself tend to be more irritated, be more frustrated. And then that kind of bubbles over into everything, that even the stuff that you do like to do, you just don't have as much of a fuse, or you don't, have as much mental capacity to do the other things that you either like to do or that are more income generating for your business.
Yes.
So I feel like it really helps, lighten the mental load of it. mostly, which
Yeah.
again then can help you. I feel like you just achieve more when you kind of have that lightened load a little bit,
Yeah.
because I know for me, when I first started and I kind of tried to do everything for my business, even the things that I wasn't good at, like the bookkeeping,
Yeah.
um, I would find myself like not even enjoying the social media part of my business anymore, because I was just so
Sure.
irritated, so frustrated of like, oh, I got to work on my business, like, and after this I have to plug in all my expenses. Oh, it
Yeah.
just takes kind of the fun out of everything when you have to do the things you don't enjoy. So yeah, I think that's also a good lesson too, is that even people like us, like we are, independent or well, you aren't necessarily, but independent contractors and stuff, we help lighten the load, but also we do the same things. We hire people out that
We
we need
do.
help for too, so we're not just talking the talk, we kind of do it too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's something that when I did this round of business life, I decided I'm going to really work in my zone of genius. I'm going to do what
yeah,
I do really, really well and let other people do what they do well. And
yeah,
so, really, all I do is coach. That's all I do,
yeah,
which
yep,
makes me an expert coach because I live in
mm-hmm,
that space. So, I research coaching, I coach all day long. And I let you handle my social. I let you handle all of the
mm-hmm,
tech and all of those pieces. I have someone that does my bookkeeping now. I have people that help
yeah,
with the onboarding. Morgan, who you and I both know on my team,
yep,
does all the tech. And so I
yep,
can just live in the coaching space. So I love that. Yeah,
yeah, I
so
agree.
good. Okay, so social media is overwhelming. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
you know me because you worked with me forever. I almost texted you because I was listening to a podcast last night and they were talking about Rumble and I'm like, wait, what's Rumble? Do I need to be on Rumble? So I looked it up and I was like, no, I don't need to be on
Yeah.
Rumble. But I mean, there's always something, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
There's Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, I mean, Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
all the things. Tell us what we need to like how do we even decide? Like, what do we do?
Well, speaking of zone of genius, I feel like you can kind of relay that into this situation too. Like, focus on the platforms that your people are, that will be worth your time too. Because if for you, example, like Threads, Twitter, like all these ones that are just kind of like extra,
Yeah.
they aren't really going to be good for most niches or businesses. But if you're thinking of your own, like yours, it's not going to perform well. It's not going to give you what you're wanting, right? Which is engagement, connections, sales, lead
Yeah.
generations. So essentially thinking about, okay, where are my people going to be? That's where I want to spend my time. That's where I want to, make sure I'm showing up consistently, doing the strategies, or hiring somebody to do them for me. And again, if you're in that spot where you are hiring somebody and you're thinking, because I get this a lot too, people will email me and they're like, well, I don't really know, where should I post on?
Yeah.
I again will say the same thing, where your people at. Like, I don't want you to spend money on having me post on platforms that aren't going to get you anything. I'd
Right.
rather you pay me more money for me to do other things on those platforms that are going to get you stuff.
Yes, to
So
go deeper rather than wider.
yes, yes, because
Yeah.
I think for a while we all thought wider is better, right? We want to be on every single thing, but when you really think about it, your people are going to be on certain things. They're not going to be on
Yeah.
everything. So you really want to focus on where they're going to be, again, because that's where you're going to get all the things you want. So it's going to, and that also is going to help too. You're going to spend money wisely, right? It's going to be a
Right.
lot more intentional. But then you're also going to get a lot better of a return on investment too, because
Yeah.
if you're posting on these things into the void and you're not getting anything back, that's not fun.
No, and then we get frustrated and then we let
Yeah.
go of our help, which it could have been that the people helping
Yes.
us were not the problem. It was just too much, trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And on too many platforms.
Yes. So 2024, what are the trends? What are some things? You recently wrote an article.
Yep.
We have a fantastic new newsletter. If you guys have not signed up yet, go to my website, ciarastockeland.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. It comes out
Mm-hmm.
once a month. And this is easy to read, easy to digest, things like tips for 2024 social media.
Yeah.
So Emily, what did you write? What did you tell us we need to pay attention to?
So I actually feel like this year of social media is going to be one of the best years yet, because I think we're all realizing the main goal here is connections, and that social media can be social and it should be social. I think for a long time we kind of all got, I don't know, we all got distracted by all these other things. And we kind of forgotten that these are people, like on these other side of these screens is other people that we can connect with, right?
Yes.
And we can connect with them and we can sell to them, right? But we can connect with them too. We don't have to always be selling. We don't have to be doing it in such an unattached way. So that's kind of
Yeah.
exciting. This year, they're really kind of pushing things like product placement. So you see influencers a lot now. Not necessarily, before it used to be, look at this greens that, like I'm promoting very, very blatantly. And
Yeah.
now it's more of, here's a day in the life. They don't even mention it. They're just like going through the day in their life. They drink
Sure.
these greens. And then all these people ask in the comments, what greens are you drinking? What greens are those? Do you seem to
Okay.
like those? So it's a very offhanded way of promoting something. But to me, it also does feel a little bit more genuine when you're seeing these people just using it in their day-to-day life instead of blatantly showing the camera, here, this is this thing that I was obviously paid to do. So
Yep.
I think that's kind of helpful. And, it might not even necessarily be that these influencers aren't getting paid to do the same thing, sell it, but it's just a lot more of a genuine way. You get to see them using it. You get to see, especially consistently. A lot of the
Yeah.
times you'll see this same product in a lot of their videos, which again, also then
Sure.
kind of gives them a good, trustworthy too, of like, okay, well, they've used it multiple times.
And then the
Um,
consumer becomes curious
yeah,
instead of, oh, they're trying to sell me something again.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what is that? I want to know what
So
that is.
yeah, so basically you don't even have to the influencers don't have to do as much of the work anymore either. They can just
Yeah.
wait for the comments to come in and then say, this is where you find it, which again, I just think is a lot more genuine. But again, it kind of shows that connection part too. But not even just with, like product placement or influencers, connections too, in the sense that on your own platforms, like as a business, obviously people know you're going to be selling them things, but they really kind of want to focus too on the connection part of, let's not always be selling. Or if we are selling, can we do it in a more creative way? Can we do it in a way that, again, isn't so blatant of buy my stuff? Can we
Yes.
kind of go around the bush a little bit with it? Or even just, again, doing like, if you're a business owner doing a blog of a day in the life, even though you're not necessarily, selling them a direct product, they're watching the video, they're getting to see who you are. They see that you're in a store, working in a store. Then they're like, oh, what store is this? Oh, that's a cute top. Like we
Yeah.
can sell in a much more fun way. And in a way, again, that promotes kind of that connection that's way more genuine than I feel like it used to be. Because for a while there, it was very, very blatant selling. And
Yeah.
again, businesses obviously have to sell, right? We have to make money. But I think right now, if we can focus on the connection more of, obviously, I know it's important to sell things and make money. And I know that's way up at the top, but I think if we can have that connection or engagement right up there with it, I think you're going to see a lot better of results. And I also think you're going to see a lot more loyal of customers too. Because
Yeah.
if you kind of build that connection, they're going to be a lot less likely to leave you, shop somewhere else, use a service from somebody else. So that's kind of exciting that
Yeah,
there's,
I recently followed a gal. I saved her stuff because I was like, how could I do this? Just because it would be really fun for my audience. On my
mm-hmm,
page, she just gets dressed, like she styles
mm-hmm,
herself, but she doesn't say a word.
yeah,
She just styles herself, and it's literally, I don't know, 60 seconds.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to look like her. I love what she puts together. It's so cute. And I was like, does she sell this? Like, that's super cute.
yeah,
And she does. You can go to her links and things, but
mm-hmm,
there's no prices in the words. There's not even, it's just like how to style, how to wear 3 colors only, or whatever she said.
yeah,
But now I follow her because I like her fashion style. And I'm
mm-hmm,
guessing eventually I'll be like, I want to buy that. So I'll purchase
yeah,
it. Right. So it makes it much more engaging than the old style of the flat lay. And this is $19 and
yeah,
this is
yeah.
$49.
Like
Yeah.
having the prices in the captions too, and
Yeah.
it's so much less in your face, which
Yes.
I think it's really refreshing too. And it also, one thing I was thinking about today when I was thinking about what we should talk about with the newsletter is, I think another thing is we're kind of moving into this space where people are shopping a lot online. And again, it used to be so blatant and so I didn't really feel like there was much of a connection. You were basically looking at these pictures
It
and
was
you're
very transactional.
yes, very transactional. So what we're missing is that connection. And where do we usually get those connections? When we're shopping in brick and mortars, when we're shopping in
Yeah.
store.
And we say, "Oh my
So
goodness, you're so cute. Do you have that in the
yeah.
store? I'd
Yep.
love to
Or
wear
what
that."
brought you in? What brought you in today?
Yes.
Or, oh, you should try these on. Like, this color would look great on you. Just kind of taking those extra things but sprinkling them into this online world too. And I think if we can do that, I think we're all going to realize how much more we can sell. But then again, like how much more loyal our customers are going to be. Because when it was so transactional, I feel like the competition, it was like so easy. Like it was either who
Yeah.
had the best price, who, showed up on my feed,
Who
and,
posted the most? Yeah.
yeah, it just wasn't, there was no loyalty and there was no connection. But now that we have that, I think, again, we're just going to see how much more of that connection makes a really big impact on our sales.
So good. Okay, so that's the first trend for 2024.
Yeah.
Just really building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And, going back to what I've been preaching for years, what problem are we solving, not what product are we selling? So
Mm-hmm.
you all sell things, you all sell stuff, you all have
Yes.
inventory, but with that inventory, what problem do you solve for people? Do you help
Yeah.
them get dressed in a way they don't understand fashion? Do you help
Mm-hmm.
them find that unique piece of jewelry? Are you a gift, creator?
Mm-hmm.
So what problem are you solving? And then with that solution, you start having conversations on your social. So that's our first
Yeah.
trend. What else?
So another one is that storytelling is not linear. And I think this kind of weave into the connection part, that like, to keep them engaged, how do we keep people engaged? So much of the time we were seeing people tell stories ABC. And now it's kind of like the first screen you'll see is somebody saying, I made $10,000 this month. Well,
Yep.
that's kind of like the end of the story. How did you get there? And if
Yeah.
somebody, that's going to intrigue a lot of people to stick around and either watch the whole video, read the caption, go to your profile. So kind of figuring out how to be creative in our hooks and how we talk to our customers. That's going to be obviously a lot bigger of a thing this year. And I'm already seeing it. Every time I go on the Explore page, I'm seeing, that first shot on a carousel or the first thing you read on a reel. It's always something that's again not point A of the story. It's like in the middle or the end, and you're like, wait, how did we get there?
What did I
And
miss? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, and it's kind of FOMO. It's like, what did I miss? I feel like there's a bigger story here. And again, that's going to just create a lot more engagement. But again, that creates then the connection too, because now I'm going onto your profile, I'm reading more into the story. And then when you kind of read more of a person's story or, things like that, then obviously you're going to feel a lot more connected to them. And again, I just feel like it brings us back to the brick and mortar thing too, of when you're in a brick and mortar too, you talk to the owners and you're kind of like, so how did you get here? Like,
Right.
it's again similar conversation of that, of you're hearing all the things instead of just here's my shirt to buy. It's
Yeah.
so again, and kind of on with the connection thing, but just also being a little bit more creative in how we tell stories and how we can interact and engage with our people online.
Yeah. So when that trend first started, where it was like, well, I have a reel out there. You guys should all go look at it
Mm-hmm.
because Emily did it for me and it's good. But I say the number one thing when I tell my clients, they all cringe when I tell them this
Yeah,
or something like that, right? And
people
all of
love
us want
that
to know,
one.
like, whoa, what is she telling her clients that makes them
Yeah,
cringe?
yeah,
So when that trend came out where people would say something like that, I was like, I'm not doing that because I just think that's rude to make people have to go and read all the things. And then
yeah.
I found myself going and reading all the things. Like I'd see real, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's because we can grab someone's attention. And if they're interested in what we have to say, there's nothing rude or sneaky
No.
about that. It's just saying, hey, you, like I'm calling out. I heard this example once, which I thought was great. You're in the middle of a room and there's, let's say, 500 women and everyone's wearing, the same color. If you hear your name, Ciara, if I hear my name, I instantly turn around, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I hear mom, I would turn around because I'm a
Yeah.
mom, but it gets farther and farther removed as it's more and more general. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think the same thing with our social, when we ask those little questions or we give the end of the story,
Yeah.
it's like pinpointing, it's calling someone's name. If that story makes sense to
Mm-hmm.
them, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to look and say, what is she
Oh,
saying? I want to hear more
yeah.
about it. And there's nothing sneaky or tricky about that. It's just cutting through the noise of all the
Yeah.
people scrolling.
Yep.
Does that make
It's
sense?
it is cutting through the noise, and I think, where you were coming from, of I don't want to be sneaky or whatever. I think there are ways you can do that where people use clickbait and then they
Yeah.
say, like, this makes my clients cringe every time. And then they say something that's completely bogus. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, that isn't really that big of a deal. Or they're like, find out in my $100 course.
Yes. And I don't do that.
Yeah. Right. So I think, again, which is good because I do feel like before that's how it was. When there was big hooks like that, it was
Which
kind
is
of
probably
sneaky.
why I was suspicious, because as a customer, that had happened to me.
We've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's where it's really nice too, where now we're kind of giving, it's not necessarily free information because you can tell them what made them cringe and you might tell them that if they're a paying client, but there's just so much more to the story, which we all know that too. And there's other ways that we promote that as well of, okay, here's one piece of advice. If you want more, look in the book, whatever, but we're not, being sneaky about it or anything like that. But I think when you said, cut through the noise, that's a really good way to put it, is we're just trying to, there's so much out there. We're just trying to figure out how can we reach the right people and how can we get them to notice us, right? When there's so many people. And I think when we get to that point too, that's where this connection thing comes into play. So once we've gotten them to stop, once we've gotten them to, look at us or, look at more of our profile, how can we get them to stay? How can we get them, to do all these other things? And I think that's where, again, all these strategies kind of come into play. And that's, again, where we have to make sure that we're kind of doing all of them so that, yes, we can get them to stop, but can we get them to stay? And we can't get them to stay if they don't stop, so there's all these things. But I think that all these new trends this year are going to be really helpful with that. And I also think all these trends are so much more natural to all of us, right? So it's a lot more natural of us to just use these products that we're already using in a video. It's natural of us to share information and like call out to those people. Yeah. So I think it's honestly going to make it a lot easier for people to sell without selling and be more creative with it.
I love it. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, a couple more. So the big one though is AI, right? We've seen all the things about AI, like ChatGPT prompts, or like there's this thing called Bard that Google came out with that's basically like chat prompts or AI. Every single app that I'm using right now, like I've used the software Later for scheduling my posts before.
Okay.
I've now found this new one called Flick, and every single one of them has the AI assistant. Canva does. I mean, it's insane. All of these apps that we've been using now has AI, and it's honestly freakishly cool and can be very, very helpful. But that's, again, where we can, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's too good to be true. What's kind of the thing
hook?
here?
Yeah.
And obviously there is some, and we have to realize now that we're going into this place of being, focused on the connection part of it. Well, what happens if we use AI to write all of our captions, all of our blog posts, even direct messages, all of our static posts or graphics that we make? If we use that, we aren't talking as ourselves. And you can blatantly tell too. If you use it on every single one. I saw this one post that I just laughed so hard because it's true. If you use this AI thing, you can tell who's using it when it's like unlock the whatever, or there was another saying one too, but essentially it uses a lot of the same verbiage, which can be great for every handful of posts. Because I even use it for like my Brandican profile. I use it, I would say, like for a caption every 10 posts. So when you sprinkle them in, it's not so bad. And again, I don't also copy and paste. Like I read through it and I'm like, okay, I would never say that.
Right.
Or I would never phrase it that way. Or I wouldn't, even as little as I would not use that emoji. That's just not an emoji I would use.
Yeah.
It's really important that we're making sure that even though we are using this tool, because it is a tool and it can be really helpful, you also have to make sure that you're not abusing it and that you're not taking away that layer of being genuine and connection and authentic. Yeah, because your readers can tell. All your followers can tell when it's not you. They can tell when it's not genuine. And you don't really want to lose, that trust that you have with them. Because if they see you using that AI all the time and they're like, well, where'd she even go? I don't even think she's on this anymore. So again, it's a tool that can be really helpful. And I do think people should use it, especially if you're crunched on time or you're like, I have no creativity today. It's great to help you with ideas. It's great to help you start to write a caption.
Yeah.
There's so many things it can help you do, but that's just one thing I want to warn people is that you want to make sure you're still sounding like you, that you're still authentic, and that it just makes sense for you. Because there are times too where I've used it and I'm like, this just doesn't even make sense. So it can
Yeah.
be easy to just kind of be lazy a little bit because we all know how kind of, you know, it can be a lot some days.
Yes.
That's when I say shut the computer, come back another day. If you find
That'd be
yourself
better
copying and
than,
pasting, yeah,
yeah.
on everything. So I think that's really important. And then another thing with AI is if you're going to give it prompts to tell you to do something, you want to be really specific so that it can help you sound more like you. So when you are wanting to use it, those times where you're feeling a little drained, you're not really creative, it's again fine to use this tool, but being smart with how we use it and specific too. So say act as a social media strategist who is trying to reach small businesses wanting to grow their social media platforms and give me 10 real ideas that include a call to action and a hook. Like that's very
Okay.
specific.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, give me some post ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, for who? For what? What are you trying to do? Do you want keywords? So again, you're going to get the better you are at giving it prompts, the better the outcome is going to be. But that doesn't always
Okay.
mean it's going to always be that way either. Like you still might have to rephrase. You still might have to delete some emojis. You still might have to include some spaces where it was too big of a chunk of text. Like you still have to do those little things. But again, it's going to come out a lot better than if you were not super specific. So that's something to
Yeah.
think about too. And again, I think it's just important that we take the time to use these tools, but use them correctly so that they are to our advantage, but then also not allowing it to kind of hinder that connection portion of it. Because again, you can tell when it's not you. You can tell when it's just not a real person. You can tell when it's very
Yeah.
robotic.
Right.
I think they're getting a lot better these days. Like sometimes the prompt or the things that it's given me, I'm like, wow, that's really good. That's something I would say. But again, it's not always going to be like that. And I think we just have to be really careful about how we use it, when we use it, and things like that. But AI is huge. And I think we're all noticing how much bigger it's getting. And I think it's only going to get more prominent this year. But then I also think we're going to kind of see maybe some issues with it too, because I have read up on some things about there's some privacy issues with it because you're giving it so much information. It's taking information from your profiles, all these things. But again, what on the internet is not,
Right.
in our
What
privacy.
on the internet is private, right?
Yeah, right. So I don't really know. There's that, but then there's also been, claims about plagiarism too, which is kind of crazy. But when you think about it, it's not people on the other end. It's this robot. This robot has no idea if it's plagiarizing or if it's taken something from somebody else.
Your best discretion with any
Yes.
tool.
Yes.
Don't just go all in without using common sense.
But I think that this one is so much harder to do because I found it myself too. I think this one is so much harder to use your common sense because it essentially is doing so much work for you. When you are feeling tired, exhausted, not creative, any of those things, it can be so easy to just, whatever, like copy and paste.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we might all find it a little hard to be.
Or you can just stay like me, Emily, and never use AI.
Yeah, that's true.
we can just,
or you can hire somebody to do it for you.
That's what I will do.
Again,
I talked to this guy. He was phenomenal expert in retail, big box retail. And he was telling me how AI is so important. He's like, you've got to get your retailers, like it's going to, if they don't, and I was like, okay, all right, this makes sense. So he sent me a bunch of tools. I spent about 5 minutes and I told my husband, I said, you know what, honey, I think we're on the edge of where it doesn't really matter for us anymore. Does that make sense? Like we're old enough where we're like, we could get by in life now, never doing it. But anyone underneath me can't, like my kids and stuff. But it's like how our parents were like, we'll probably never really use the tool. We're on the edge. That's where I feel like I am. So any of you listening that are like, whoa, I hate this part of the conversation. I get you. I feel you. Yes, I empathize.
Yeah. No, it is. And it's a lot. Even when I first started seeing other people post about AI, I was like, oh, another thing. And, there's so many things with it. Like you have to be specific. You have to rephrase, you have to do all these things. So sometimes it feels like more work. But again, I think that's where you hire those people who have done the research, who know what they're doing.
Yes.
They can use it, to your best strategy and
Yep.
things like that. But yeah, so I think if you are going to dabble with it, just be careful and just remember that we want to go in with the mindset of being authentic. We want to create connection, and not just copy and paste something, not
Yeah.
just, try to get stuff out there. That's another thing too with social media. You don't always have to worry about, okay, I have to post 17 times a week. If it's all going to be, not,
Copy and paste. Yeah.
yeah, then don't do it. It
Yeah.
almost would be better to post 0 times than 17 times and it's not authentic or creative or anything like that. So
Yeah.
that's, which I think is great that we're moving into this spot, because for a long time there was, I mean, can people remember all of these, Instagram profiles that were like, it didn't even show people's faces. It was just showing
Yeah.
like random photos, or they would even like take stock photos, and it was like there wasn't a real person on the other end. It was just this
Yeah.
inspiration board essentially. Like, those are all fun and fine. I mean, specifically I think it's better on Pinterest because that's
Yeah.
what you're doing. But I just feel like I'm so glad that we're kind of moving into this space where it's not going to be like that anymore, and
Yeah.
you're not really going to be rewarded for that type of work either. We're now being rewarded for being genuine and authentic and putting a little bit of our own spin on it, which is kind of exciting, and
Yeah.
not always being transactional. Like, let's kind of dive deeper. And again, with you talking about that account you followed of like 3 ways, I mean, I don't know that she did this, but like 3 ways to style this top, or 3 ways to, pick colors that you're not comfortable with, things like that. Like, that is a
Yeah.
way to sell without selling. Like, let's be creative. Let's solve a problem. And if solving that problem also sells something, that's great. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a really good place that we're moving into. So yeah, I'm really excited, and it makes it a
Yeah.
lot more fun too as a social media person to kind of bring this social back into social media, which is something I've said like the last year, and I'm kind of glad that, I don't know, the universe is listening maybe.
Yes. Let's make social.
Yeah.
Well, I want to kind of close out our conversation today with that story that I messaged you about. I was in Rhode
Yeah.
Island last week visiting a client.
Yeah.
And so she's been a client for several years. And then I happened to have a brand new client just starting with me also in Rhode Island. And so I connected with my older client and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Rhode Island. I mean, you guys that listening know this is really important to me and the way that I run my business. I
Mhm.
love face to face and I want to get in your business. I want to see it. I want to understand.
You've always done the connection thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I recently, my financial advisor that helps me with strategy and stuff, he was like, "Do we have to keep doing these in person? Because it costs me a lot of money to fly. I
Mm.
fly around the country, and I get a hotel room and I rent a car." And I
Yeah.
said, "Yep, non-negotiable,
Yeah.
non-negotiable. Like
Yeah.
this is part of me. It's part of my business. It's how I feel I can make the best impact." So
Yeah.
I was going to visit my new client and I messaged my older client and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in the neighborhood. Can I come see you?" And so I got to stop by her store next day. So that was the first night. The next day, I was working all day with my new client, so I didn't check Instagram. I checked it later on and I had a DM that was like, "Oh my goodness, are you in Rhode Island? I just
Yeah.
read your book." And I was
Yeah.
like, "What is going on?" That is what social media is for.
Yeah.
So this gal had read my book. I don't know her, read my book,
Yeah.
watches me. You don't know who's watching you on
Yeah.
the other
There's
side of who's
silent
buying from
watchers.
you.
Yep.
Yep. She watches my stories, obviously. She's probably listening today.
Yeah.
But she saw my story that I was there and she used social media the right way too and
Yeah.
reached out and said, "Hey," and she's like, "I know this is a big ask. Would you ever be willing to
Yeah.
come to my store?" So I wasn't able to because of scheduling. It was too late in the day, but otherwise I for sure would have run over.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Emily," I messaged you. I'm like, "This is what social media is
Yes.
created for. It's to connect
Yeah.
us." And I think when we sell products specifically, we lose
Mhm.
sight of that.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
want sales, we want money, we have to pay our bills. It's the grind, it's the hustle. And we
Mhm.
keep shoving stuff in front of people's faces and forgetting that it's about the relationship.
Mhm.
And now, of course, when she's ready, she knows where I am. She'll hire
Yeah.
me when she's ready. I don't have to shove a product to her face. I can just show her what I do in real life with
Yeah.
people. And when she's ready, she'll come. And so I just wanted to remind people that are listening that it seems like the long game to do it that way, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Is that why we
It
get,
does.
yeah,
Well, and that's why even a lot of potential clients who come to me, their first thing out of their mouth is, I want to increase my sales by 10%. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a deeper issue here too. Like if you're not, if you're not getting a lot of engagement, there might be some other issues that we need to focus on before we can get there. And it is a long
Yeah.
game. I tell potential clients that too. I say full discretion, your sales, you're not going to probably get a lot of sales right away because we're kind of starting from scratch, or we're pivoting, or we're doing all
Cleaning
these
stuff up.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it might feel like we're not getting anywhere, but each little stepping stone we're doing, of whether it be replying to all the comments, that's one thing. A lot of businesses don't reply to comments that aren't about
Yeah.
sales, which is
So
bonkers to me,
not
but
cool. Yeah.
yeah, right? But that's one level. Like it might feel like, oh, just one other thing we have to do. But again, if you're hiring somebody, that's something that they can do. We just
Yeah.
need to focus on like all those little stepping stones of that can make us sales, but might
Yep.
not feel, it's a delayed gratification essentially is what it
That's what
is.
it is. Yeah.
But I think it's so much worth it because how much more loyal, again, even with that story, like if you, even though you didn't go there, the fact that you said that you would have, or that you thought about it, you looked at your schedule, that person is going to be a lot more loyal to you than somebody who does not, care
Even
about
answer the
connection.
DM. Have you,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Total
Yeah.
tangent here, but like this, I bet this bugs you too. Have
Hmm.
you seen before where people are like, don't DM me, I don't check my DMs, and they put that in
Yeah.
their bio? I don't get
It
that.
gives me the ick. That's an ick. Yeah.
I'm like, because if you don't, so time management is real, right? And I'm really cautious with my time too, but you can always hire that help. Or even
Yes.
use an AI. I mean, that's an old
Yeah.
fashioned AI tool where you have an auto
Yeah.
respond. So
Yeah.
I do that on one of my Facebook pages. I just say, hey,
Yep.
I don't check this very often. So auto response, I don't check this, but
Yep.
please email me and
Please.
I will
Yes.
answer you.
Yes.
But I would
That's a
never
big
say don't
difference. No.
contact me.
But then if they say that, then part of me is like, then where are you getting?
Where am I going to talk to you? How do I
Yeah.
find out? Yeah.
And especially if they're not giving you another option, like for you
Yeah.
saying, okay, I don't check this, but here's my email and I do. So please do talk to me. So if you're
Yes.
not giving another option, again, that's a good way of, we are not doing that anymore. This
Right.
in 2024, it's all about connection. It's all about authenticity. And I think, which is honestly surprising to me for how technical we're getting. I'm surprised that we're kind of going into that, but again, I think we've kind of learned that being just transactional isn't going to do it anymore. We have to really
Yeah.
build the relationships, and kind of mimic what we're doing in stores, or when
Yep.
you say do go to a service-based business location, like we're kind of trying to mimic all of that a little bit more. So I'm excited that 2024 is
Yeah.
going to be the year of that, the year of
The year of
connection, and
connection.
yeah.
So good. So do you have room for clients? I know you're usually really full because
Yeah.
not many people leave you. I mean, once they have you because you're pretty cool, but
Well, actually, this story, you'll enjoy this story. So I had a client who she had to, last week, it's been 8 days. So
okay.
last week, she said, I have to pause services. Like, I have to talk to my husband about budget. Today is the 8th day. She texted me and she said, I need you back.
I love
I'm like,
it.
if it's been 8 days, that's, I feel pretty good.
Yes.
But yes, I do have room. But now that I am getting to that, I have a lot more clients. And the clients that I do work with, it's pretty in depth. Like, I give them 24/7 access to texting me. You can call me. I mean, whatever. I'm just a lot more picky. But that's more because I want to make sure that the time I give you and the money that you're spending, it's all going to be, worth it, and that we're doing the best we can for the bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But just always reach out, because even if I can't, work with you now, maybe we can work together later. Or if, something that you're needing help with isn't in my zone of genius now, it might be later. So
Yeah.
that's one of the, or I can, point you in the right direction. Because that's the thing too, is some people message me, a lot of people message me actually asking for website help, and I'm like, oh, talk to Morgan,
Yeah.
she's your gal.
Yep.
But yeah, so I do have room, but we'll just chat about it and see if I can be the
It's a
best
good
help for
fit.
you, or if, yeah, that's the thing, is being a good fit, because I don't ever want people to just waste money either.
Yeah.
If I don't feel like I'm the best person for the job, or that, you know, anything like that, I want to make sure that we're going to be the best fit and that it'll work out good. But yes, I do. I do have
Okay.
room.
That sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And that's the thing about Emily and now Megan, who's handling where I, send bookkeeping over
Yeah.
to, and Steph is jumping on. Morgan, like these are people, they're not fly by night ladies. Like these are women
Yeah.
who have a business and will only take, your help if they know they can help, which is my
Mm-hmm.
philosophy. Like I tell
Mm-hmm.
people it's not a good fit. I'm not going to just take your money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just sell you something. And the people that I recommend also have that philosophy. So that's so cool. So where should people go to look for you or to connect with you?
I would say honestly, just social media is the best spot, whether that be Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is Brandican Social Fargo, and then Facebook is just Brandican Social Media. I mean, you can also fill out a form on my website, but I feel like again, with that Instagram and Facebook, you're really going to see the big connection of things that I talk about every day, my captions, my stories, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
You're
get a
gonna
feel for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you might also realize, oh, that's not going to be a good fit for me. Or you might think, oh, this is the type of personality I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
I would say the social medias are going to be the best spot just because that's where I'm currently talking. My website looks beautiful too, by the way. That was Morgan.
Yep.
But I would say I'm most active on my social medias. So you can find me
Okay.
there.
And we'll put that all in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I will add this note. If you go and check out Emily and you're like, it's not quite the right fit, or if you're not ready, when you're
Mm-hmm.
ready, when you're interviewing, I want you guys to think about these things when you're hiring social media. Do
Yeah.
not just hire someone that says, I will post 3 times a day or 3 times a week for, do 4 of these, four
Yep.
of those, and 5 pictures. Like that's what you get out there. I always tell people when I recommend Emily to them, I always say the reason Emily's good is because she understands individual brand voice. So I
Yeah.
have a very different brand voice than, let's say, Shannon
Mm-hmm.
Wilburn or Shannon, my client. Like all three of
Yeah.
us have different companies. We have a
Yes.
different brand voice. We have a different look. And you're able, like, you would never know looking at Emily's work that the same person is sitting behind that. And that's important because a
Yeah.
lot of social media VAs, it's just like cookie
I
cutter.
never thought of that, but yeah, you're right.
I know I'm right. That's what I
Right?
tell people all the time. I'm like, Emily, like, you don't know. She could give you
Yeah.
guys, 10 of her clients and you would have no idea she's the same person. And
That's
that's what you want. You want it to look
yeah.
like Ciara's posting that and Shannon's
Yeah.
posting that. And it sounds like them and it looks like them and it feels like them. So if you're interviewing, make sure you're looking at people's work and you're asking them those questions
Yeah, and you can
because
even ask them,
it's
"Hey,
so
can I have
important.
some links to your clients' profiles?" I have a lot of people ask me for that, like a couple links to my current clients, and some of them I have to say, like, this isn't just all of me posting because that
Sure.
might be a thing too. But again, that gives you a really good look on, okay, do they all look the same or do they all look pretty different? So never
Yeah.
be afraid to ask for all of those things too. I would even whoever you're working with, don't be afraid to kind of ask the questions to make sure that you're going to be a good fit, especially if you're spending a lot of money, which a
Yeah.
lot of the times service-based businesses you do have to shell out a little bit of money. So
Investment. Yeah.
and you want to make sure that you're going to be a really good fit work-wise, but also personality-wise. You don't want to talk to
Yeah.
somebody every day that you don't want to. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
really important.
So important. So good. All right. Well, it was fun to
Yeah.
interview you. Thank you for taking
Yeah.
time to just hang out with us here on the podcast. And we'll put all Emily's info in the show notes. Again, she is going to be putting tips into our monthly newsletter. So if you guys want those, that newsletter is completely free. You can sign up for it on my
Yeah.
website. It's brand new. We just launched it in January. So it's going to be something that everyone wants to get on just to stay on top of retail, wholesale, maker, any inventory tips.
Numbers.
Media tips, yes, all the numbers, accounting information, super easy to digest. So that's something you're all going to want to take part in. All right, Emily, I'm going to let you get back to the baby
Okay.
and I'll talk to you again, I'm sure over Instagram, text, and all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning into this week's episode of the Inventory Genius podcast. Hopefully this has been helpful and you've been able to grab a couple nuggets just to take and think about. So join us again next week. Invite a friend. If you haven't done this, please will you review my podcast? It really
Yeah.
helps us get in front of more listeners. So if you'd be willing to review my podcast, I would love, all the stars, but you review it in a way that makes sense for you. I would just really appreciate that. Thank you so much for thinking of us, for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now. Hey, friend, thank you so much for tuning in today to the Inventory Genius podcast. If there's something that you heard today on the podcast episode and you want to dig deeper into becoming an inventory genius yourself, I want to invite you to head on over to my website, ciarastockeland.com, where I have multiple ways that you and I can work together on your inventory. I want to help you with your profit, your cash flow, and your paycheck, because at the end of the day, it's all related to your inventory. So head on over to the website, connect with me. I'll work with you soon. See you then. Hey there, friend. So I've already invited you to grab your copy of the Inventory Genius book. But if you're ready to go a step further and dive in, if you want a quick start to becoming an inventory genius, then I want to also invite you to grab your seat and the Quick Start to Inventory Genius course. This really easy to digest course is going to include all the tools, spreadsheets, and systems you need to implement the Inventory Genius method immediately in your business. We'll talk about creating an open to buy plan. We'll talk about creating a profit plan. We'll talk about creating a business budget. And then we cap it all off with a private one-on-one call, you and me. Yep, that's right. The Quick Start to Inventory Genius course includes a one-on-one coaching call with me. So you can go through the book, you can go through the Quick Start to Inventory Genius course, you can write down your questions, and then you and I can get on the phone and problem solve together. Head on over to ciarastockeland.com, grab your seat at the Quick Start to Inventory Genius course. See you there.